My name is Kennedy and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm giving you this soft glam look and it turned out so cute. My skin looks so soft and so buttery, and this entire look only took me 20 minutes including eyeshadow, so it's going to be very minimal, very easy to follow along with. So before we get started in this video, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any other future videos, and also give this video a like. But let's just go ahead and get started. It has been such a long time since I filmed a makeup tutorial. We are back. We got braids. Who are we? I'm just gonna put my hair up just because I don't want to get makeup or anything on them. I like to basically just like ball this up and put a claw clip on it, and voila, that's my little like messy bun quick little style. But let's just go ahead and get into this video. I'm really excited. It's been so long. So for primer, we're going to be using the iconic Milk Hydro Grip primer. It's just one of those primers that's just so good, and it really does like meet my expectation as far as like making sure my makeup lasts long. The consistency is nice and tacky, so your foundation is going to stick directly to it. Okay, so now let's get into the brows. This is probably my most asked question, and I just want to film like an updated version of how I feel in my brows. So naturally, people always just assume that I have thick brows when I don't. Like, I literally don't. So it's always so funny when people are like, yeah, it's easy for you because you have thick brows, and I'm like, where? Because you can see the difference. It's really drastic. So I just like to start by taking a powder and just setting this area because I do have oily skin, so I just like to make sure that this area is nice and matte. And I'm just going to be going in with my brush and my spoolie, and this brow pencil is from Morphe. This is the one that I always use. I've been using this for like 3 years. It's either this one or the Benefit one, but I kind of like this one better. The Benefit one be breaking sometimes, or maybe I'm just pressing too hard, I don't know. But I'm just starting by taking all of my brow hairs and brushing them in the same direction. So I just like to start off in the center of my brow, and I'm just going to start to create these tiny little hair-like strokes. And by hair-like strokes, I just literally mean like tiny little lines here. Now I kind of like to start to exaggerate the arch here, and you kind of want to compare it to the brow that you already did so that they're as similar as possible. So I just like to go in, and I'm still creating those tiny little lines, but I'm just kind of exaggerating the arch here. So once you have the arch how you like it, now you can go in and start to create those tiny little hair strokes in the front of the brow. And just a tip, something that I like to do, I love to go in and pull the skin in the front just to make the skin a little bit tighter, so that way when you're drawing the tiny little hair strokes, it's easier to grip and easier to draw on. And don't worry about making these too short in the front, because too long in the front, because even if you do make them like really long, I'm going to show you guys how I clean it up. The good thing about doing your brows like this is it don't have to be perfect at all. So now I'm going in with this little eyeliner. This is actually an eyeliner. Urban Decay sent me these eyeliners, and they came with like a bunch of different colors, and this one is dark brown. And as soon as I seen it, I'm like, ooh, that's going to be perfect for my brows. So I'm just going in and creating tiny little lines. And I like to go in and just kind of like smear out the bottom, if that makes sense. But once you feel like you kind of like have the brow how you want it, now I'm going to show you guys how to give it more of a narrow appearance similar to this one. So I'm going to be taking my foundation, and you can use any foundation. And I like to start by creating like a tiny little line in the middle here just to make sure it's even with the other side. So I like to start here. And I'm going to kind of like take off that little like top layer that I went too high and really just clean it up. And that's what makes this easy. Like, even if you feel like your brows are too extreme or they look like too feathery, you can always go in with a foundation just to give them more of a clean appearance to match the other side here. So I feel like that all sounds really complicated, but it's really not, because you can almost like color outside the lines and just clean it up with foundation if it's not perfect. So now I'm taking my concealer and I'm just focusing this right underneath my arch here. So you just want to clean that up, and you just want it to look as similar as possible. It's not going to look identical. It's just like unrealistic unless you have like a microblading or something like that. And especially for somebody like me, like I barely even have brow hair, so I'm literally like creating my entire brow from scratch. So moving on to foundation. For foundation, I'm going to be using my favorite foundation. This one is just the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. I get so many questions about what my favorite foundations are, and this one is honestly like such a good one for every single day. It lasts really long and the coverage is amazing. This is like more of like a medium to full coverage type of foundation, so I'm just going to start by pumping 2 pumps to the back of my hand, and I like to go in and start to just stipple this all over in like a random area so that it's nice and evenly distributed. And I actually don't really apply too much on my forehead, but I do like to just go in and just stipple this directly on my skin. And I honestly struggled back and forth with like not finding a shade because they have so many different shades in this foundation, but I just didn't know which shade I liked the best for me. But I finally decided to go with a different undertone, so I'm trying something new out, and I really like it. I just felt like the other one was making me look like too orange, so I'm like, maybe I need to go for something a little bit more cool. And I'm just stippling this right into the skin, and I'm not pressing too hard at all, but the coverage with this foundation looks so good, and the finish of it is just like so skin-like. Like I don't feel like I look too shiny, but I also don't feel like I look like too matte. It's just like the perfect foundation for if you have like combination skin. So I'm just putting whatever was left on my forehead because, like I said, I never like to apply too much foundation on my forehead. It just looks like weird on me. I'm just making sure that I get this in all of the small areas, and even for like areas like this, like that, I like to go in with the smaller brush to make sure that it's blended on the sides of my nose and in any like small little areas. So now we can go in and bring like a little bit more color to the skin, and I like to go in with a concealer that's a little bit darker, and I just do like a very small amount of this, honestly, and I'm just really lightly blending everything up and like into my ears. This looks so good, like already. I just love the way that that foundation layers on top of different products too. So moving on to concealer, I'm just taking my e.l.f. Camo Concealer right underneath my eyes. And I like to opt for a concealer that's really golden. I just really like the way that it suits my complexion. So I like to go in layers. And then I'm going to also be applying this down the center of my nose. And I'm going to start to blend that nose contour up just to create more of a brightness in the center of my face. So I actually discovered this hack on TikTok, blending out the concealer with the powder puff, and I have not went back. Like, it just looks so good, and it's so different because normally I would just use a beauty blender, and you still can, but if you can get your hands on one of these puffs, it just really does give the under eye like a super soft finish. And now I'm going to be going back in with that smaller brush just to blend out right by the nose and finish blending out the nose contour. And now I'm going back in with that same foundation brush, and I'm just lightly stippling around the perimeter. And just because I want this to be like super bright, I am going to be going in with a little bit more concealer because I really want this to be like pretty full coverage. And I'm also going to be taking some on my eyes, I forgot. And I am just blending my lid out with this beauty blender, and I'm just making sure that this entire area is just nice and bright. And just a pro tip, whenever you get done blending out concealer, you always want to go back in with that foundation brush and just stipple the outer edges just so that everything is nice and seamless. So now we can go in with our cream blush, and I'm going to be using this cream blush from Rare Beauty, and this one is in the color Grateful. And I don't use too much of this, but I just like to put, do a little bit more actually, a little bit more at like the highest points of my cheeks. And I'm going back in with that fiber brush, and I'm literally going to super gently start to sweep that in circular motions. And this blush is just so pretty. Like the formula, the color, everything about it is perfect. Like, I don't know if y'all can tell, but it just adds like that perfect amount of color and like youthfulness to my skin. That blush is literally stunning. Like, every single time I use it, I'm like, oh yeah, this blush is fire. So after you get done stippling the blush, you can finally go in and set the under eye. So I'm going back in with that puff and my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Press Powder, and I'm just pressing that right underneath the eyes. And as I get to the corners, I'm kind of like lifting the puff to create the illusion of a lifted under eye. And same thing for this side. And the shade I use is shade number 3. I'm also taking this down the center of my nose here. And this powder has a slight color to it, so I really like it because I feel like it just gives my under eye like that soft look to it, but it adds like a little bit more coverage. And now I'm going in with my setting powder, and this one is the Laura Mercier setting powder, and I just want for this under eye to be really bright, so I'm going in and I'm setting that directly on top of that Charlotte Tilbury powder. So next to contour, I'm just taking this contour palette by Juvia's Place, and this one is in the shade Dark, and I am gently dusting this on top of my cheekbones just to add that definition and a little bit of color back in. So we did a liquid contour, and now we're doing a powder contour on top, and we're also going to layer the blushes. So we did a liquid blush, and now I'm going to layer a powder blush on top of that. And this blush is the Rubies to Riches blush by Fenty Beauty. It's also stunning. It has that same like reddish orange undertone to it. I just feel like it looks so good on the skin. And I'm just taking a small brush and I'm just dusting whatever is left of that setting powder underneath my eyes. And I'm also just going underneath, just making sure that there's no harsh lines. So once you have everything dusted away, now I'm gonna go in and just do like a quick little spray. So base should be looking something like this, and I just love all these products. They work so well together, and these are honestly like my favorite products at the moment. And when I tell you that they do not move, like they do not move, and I just like sprayed my skin so that they could all melt together, and everything is looking good. So now we just have to do the lips and the eyes. So for my eyeshadow today, I'm going to be using this Coffee Shop palette from Juvia's Place. This has been my go-to. I'm going to be working with this shade here as my lid shade, and then you want to take a warm brown, and any dark brown works. Let me start off by finding a brush, and I'm taking that warm brown, and I'm just starting by taking that right underneath my brow bone, and then I'm also going to be placing that warm brown on the outside of my eye here. And then you just eventually want to connect those two to create like an arch shape. Super easy. That's the first step. It literally takes me like 3 minutes to do my eyeshadow lately. So same thing on this side. You want to just take that warm brown shade right underneath the brow here, and then also I like to apply it on the outer corner. And then eventually you just basically want to blend this upward and connect it to this outside. And it's just really going to like accentuate the eyes, especially if you have like an almond eye shape. I find that this technique works really nicely. And now I'm gonna be going in with this shade here, which is just like a neutral like khaki tan color, and this is super easy also, but I'm just gonna be taking this on a flat brush and literally just pressing it. And same thing on the other side. You just have to find a color that's like right enough for this step, and it will show up if you just lightly pack it on. And I'm taking this in the middle too. That's literally it. Like, hello, so freaking easy. But I'm just taking that clean brush now, and I'm just buffing away the top. But already, as you can see, it just really opened the eye, and it just looks like super gradient and just like super soft. And the last thing that you want to do is go in and do like a small amount of eyeliner, just really close to the lash line. When I say small amount, I mean very small amount. Do not get crazy with this at all. That's a mistake that I make sometimes. I'll say small, and then I'll end up with like this huge dramatic wing. But I'm gonna do this side for reference, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, and then I'll come back on and do the eyeliner on this side. I just like to look down, and sometimes I'll even like gently pull the skin on my eye. So once you have the liner drawn, I'm just stopping it right when I get out to the outer corner here. Now I'm just taking this dark brown, and I'm gonna start to gently blend that directly on top of that eyeliner, just at the outer corner. And this is just going to give it like a super smoked out appearance. And as you can see, it just kind of makes the eyeliner appear a little bit more soft. Now I'm going back in with a dark brown, and I usually only use like 3 shadows for my eyeshadow lately. And I'm literally taking that and I'm just packing that right on the outer corner here. just to create a little bit more like depth to the outside of my eyes. And you just want to softly blend that upward, and it should almost like blend into that very first shade that we applied on our eyes. And I always just like to go in with a clean brush with nothing on it and just sweep that to make it look nice and soft and blend it out. But that's literally how I do my eyeshadow lately. Like, it's so easy, and it just really does give me that like lifted, sultry, sexy look. And I can't believe this only takes me like less than 10 minutes to do. That's the crazy part to me. Like, I used to spend so much time doing my eyeshadow and like cutting the crease and doing all that, and it's just like so easy. So now I'm just going in with a little mascara, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and just pop on a half lash just because I'm into anything minimal right now. That's my vibe. So for the lashes, I'm literally just gonna be, or I already have half lashes cut, and all I did was just basically take my full strip lash and cut it in half, and I'm taking the inner corner and I'm gonna be placing it on the outer corner. And do you see how just adding like a lash to the outer corner just kind of like lifts the eye? And I do this like eyeliner trick on the bottom of my eyes before I add mascara. I make like these tiny little dots to like mimic like the root of the lash so the lash appears a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna go in and do that. And for lips, I'm just going in with this dark brown lip liner. I literally got it from the beauty supply store. I don't know the brand, but you can use any dark brown, Chestnut by MAC or Cork. And for gloss, I am going to be using my favorite gloss. This one is from LA Girl, and it's just like a super bright nude. And at first it can be intimidating because when I put it on, watch, it's going to look like so white. But this is like my go-to nude. I always do this lip. This has been my go-to lip for like, it's just like quarantine, I feel like. But oh, this is just so stunning. So I'm gonna give myself one last spray. And also I'm just gonna make sure that everything is nice and blended. And I'm gonna mattify my under eye one more time because I do want like a super matte under eye still. Like, even though the rest of my skin is glowy, I still want the under eye to be matte. And I'm adding a little bit more blush just because I'm a blush girly and I don't want my blush to get lost. So I'm gonna fix my hair and then I'll come back on and show you guys the completed look. This is a whole vibe. This just turned out so cute, and I think I'm gonna start doing makeup tutorials again because I'm like, this is cute. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope this video was helpful. If you did, then make sure you give this video a like and a comment. And if you have any additional questions, then just comment down below and I'll definitely answer those. But that's all I have for this video, and I will see y'all in my next one.